Welcome back to MVM. Today we have a review from Red Raven Games. This is called Megaland from Ryan Lockett and his wife Mallory Lockett. Her first game. This is a Target exclusive, a push-your-luck 2 to 5 player game that's really fast. Takes about 20 minutes to play.
Yeah, and I'm guessing she may have had her hand in some of his other games too. I mean, she is his wife, but yeah, she officially had her hand in this one. And like Jeremy said, this is meant to be, I think, a family-style game. This is definitely not for the enthusiast crowd. It's not a follow-up to Islebound or Near and Far. This is something you're going to put on the table. It's a Target exclusive for your family to sort of introduce them not only to slightly more enthusiast games, but also sort of to the world of Ryan Lockett's games.
The first thing you're going to see is a bunch of cards. However, this isn't all the cards in the game. There's a ton of different sets of cards. They comprise the market. There's always 6 available starting cards, which are the same every single game that you play, but there's always 6 starting cards and 7 random sets of other buildings.
Yeah, and these buildings are going to be something that players acquire throughout the game that give them some ongoing benefits or some other various effects that get triggered throughout the different phases of the game.
There are treasures in the game. There are 6 different types of treasures. All of them have a number in the upper right-hand corner of that treasure that signifies how many are in the deck. The reason why they have numbers in here is because you're trying to either get matching types or unique types to be able to buy the different market cards or more hearts for your characters. Speaking of characters, each player is going to have one of these character boards in front of them. It's going to show on the left-hand side that you have 4 hearts that you are able to start with to be able to run through the level. The monsters within the level are going to be depleting those hearts. So the push your luck element is how this comes into play. If you ever lose all your hearts, you lose all the treasures that you've gained, unless you've returned home and banked all of those particular treasures. And on the right-hand side, it's going to show you where the hearts are going to be stored if you're injured. And across the top, it's going to show you the different types of monsters and their ratio in the deck.
Yeah, the really cool thing about this game as well, especially for families and kids, is it's going to introduce them. I don't know if this was his goal, but it's going to introduce them to some of the basic ideas of probability in gaming.
Yeah.
The inclusion of the numbers on these cards, the inclusion of the numbers there, help people understand, like, well, I have a carrot, there's X number of carrots left in the deck, and it comes into play when you're pairing them up because you need to use like items or pairing them up with dislike items.
Right. One of the other elements in the game is the level deck. There are 10 cards in this level deck. And again, this comes into the probability. There are cards that have nothing on them. There's safe levels. There's cards that have monsters. There's bats, which fly. And then there's land-based creatures. Each of these are going to damage the characters when they're revealed to the entire table. Players are going to be running through this deck simultaneously. So each player is participating at the exact same time.
And the last component you see on the table here is this unbelievably beautiful game tray that holds the money, your hearts, and some of these jump tokens that you might be able to acquire from certain buildings that you use to navigate some of those monsters.
And you also see some pictures of the game tray inside of the box that holds all the cards as well. So this is how the game is played. It takes place over 3 different phases per round. The number of rounds in the game is dependent upon who is able to trigger the end-game condition, which is 20 coins. That's not going to mark the winner, and it's not going to be a hard end. You're going to finish out the round, and some players can have more coins by the end of the game.
Right.
Doesn't mean that player is going to win.
Exactly.
So, to play the game, each player first in phase 1 is going to decide to run the level. That's what it's called, running the level. Each player is going to place their marker onto the level tile. This is going to denote that they are participating in running the level. When that happens, every player is distributed one of the treasure cards at random face up above their player board. That means they have not banked that. It is at risk of being lost to the player if they are killed at any time during the run the level phase. Then what happens is you're going to flip over the top card at random from the level deck. And in this case, we show 2 bats. So everybody at the table takes 2 damage.
Exactly. There's nothing you can really do about that. You're going to flip that over. This is the push your luck element of the game. You're flipping a card over. It's either going to have some damage on it, it's going to be empty, so safe, or there's one card in there that allows everyone to grab one more treasure, and that is everyone who's still participating in the run.
Now, some of these creatures, being the land-based creatures, have an icon in the upper right-hand corner that shows that they can be jumped over. There's a variety of different buildings that provide jump tokens that you can expend to be able to negate the damage that you would typically take in that case. At this point, everyone decides, okay, well, we're all taking 2 damage from this creature. So they push them over to the right side of their player board. And in turn order, starting with the first player and going clockwise around the table, each player has to decide at that point, do I want to bank that 1 treasure that I have at this point, or do I want to push my luck? So each player at that point is going to look at their character marker and say, I want to stay in. If they want to stay in, they remain on the level tile. If they want to remove themselves from the level, they take their character back, and they take this card to the bottom of their player card.
Right, and this is where the probability really kicks in, because you're going to consider we've flipped up one card that has 2 damage. And if you look at the probabilities, there's 2 cards like that. There's still 1 card in the deck that does 3 damage, 3 cards that do 1 damage. So, and a few cards that don't do any damage. So at this point, you're thinking, well, we all have 2 hearts left. It's unlikely that we're going to take all that damage, because there's only 2 cards really in the deck that'll do that. However, it may come up.
Yeah.
So this is where the push your luck comes in, and this is where kids really start to learn that whole sort of idea of like, should I be greedy or should I take what I can get?
So each player in turn order is going to make that decision, and then you're going to reflip over the card, but before you do so, everyone who stayed in level is going to get 1 more treasure on top of their player board. You reveal it, and you're going to keep doing this until all the players have either returned home and banked their treasure or have fallen, which means they basically died in that level. All their hearts have been expended.
Yeah, and when you fall, you have lost all your hearts, and any of the treasures above your board are going to get discarded to the mutual discard pile. All of the treasures that you had in storage or from previous rounds are safe.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a moment. So the second thing that happens in the phase is that once that is complete, we go to the buy round. Now, starting with the first player, they're allowed to use the treasures that they've banked or stored underneath their purchase cards to be able to do one of 2 things within the market. One is to buy cards that are added to their player tableau, which give them coins or special abilities through the course of the game, or they can buy additional hearts. We'll first talk about buying cards. When you buy cards, you can buy as many cards as you want. However, you cannot buy the same card in the same round. So what I'm saying here is that you can't buy this card twice in the same round.
Right.
However, you can own as many as you wish. You just have to buy them in sequential rounds.
Exactly, and it is tricky here because you're not going to be buying a ton of cards.
Right.
You're only going to have so many treasures, and the way you buy these cards is you look at these icons in the upper left-hand corner of these. There's cards that have 1 hex, 2, all the way up to 6. For the buildings, you're going to have to discard different icons. I have 2 carrots here, so these wouldn't work. But if I had a carrot and a rock, I could trade those in to get up to the cafe, or any one icon would get me the sandwich stand.
Most of these cards, as we said, give you coin at that point. Again, it's a race to whoever has the most coin. Some of them are going to have special abilities that are constantly ongoing. You just need to read the card to see what they do. The other thing you can purchase during this round is additional hearts. There is a board off to the side that shows you capability of buying your 5th through your 8th heart, and you have to buy them in that order. However, these don't require unique treasures. They require matching treasures. So in order to buy your 5th heart, you need 2 matching treasures, and then 3, 4, and 5. So once the purchase round is done in turn order, any of the cards that players have not used are returned to the discard pile unless they are able to bank those or store them in their basement for the next round. And in order to do that, there is a 1-to-1 ratio for the cards that you own and the cards that you can bank. So if I have 4 cards that I didn't use and I have 4 buildings in my tableau, I can bank each one of these cards in one individual building.
Right, that allows you to save up for some of those, particularly some of those later hearts. When you need 4 and 5 of the same icon, you can store up a bunch of carrots. Again, also the probability comes into play because something like carrots, which there are 30 of, is going to be something that you likely find more and more of.
So during phase 3, it's called the night phase. This is when you're actually going to place the first player marker clockwise. You're going to be able to store any of those goods that you have. Some of the cards are going to have night symbols on them. There's a few of them here that show a night symbol. That means that you're only going to activate those particular cards during the night phase. Those give you a variety of different things, typically coins during that time.
Yeah, the nice thing about those is that they will be recurring, unlike a lot of the other cards that give you points at one time.
At that point, everyone's going to reset their hearts, meaning that you're going to start the next round with a full complement of all the hearts that you've collected, including the ones that you've purchased during that previous round. Then the entire level deck is going to be recombined and reshuffled together. So you're always going to use that 10-card level deck for every single run phase that you use within the game.
Right. The deck that you don't shuffle is the treasure card, so that the cards that have been discarded stay out until that deck is depleted, at which point you'd reshuffle it.
And then again, as we said, it's a race to 20 coins. When that's triggered, you're going to finish out the round and add up all the coins to see who wins. Now, one of the cool things about the game is that there's such a variety of different cards.
Yeah.
I look at this game and I see some shades of Machikoro in that fact.
A little bit.
You know, all the different cards that you can add. You're always using the same 6 base cards, which help you kind of facilitate that engine, but also you have all these different ones that can change the gameplay quite drastically. In this case, we have no jump cards, meaning that you're always going to take damage from those land-based creatures.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's for a sort of introductory game to have that variability with the different cards that you have right out of the box. Like Jeremy said, the fact that you don't have any jump icons here, if you play this with a family a few times and you have those jump cards in there and then you don't,
yeah,
it's a good thing, a good idea to remind all the kids at the table, by the way, we're going to be taking damage for a lot of these creatures if you can't jump over them.
So what do you think about the game?
It's like I said at the beginning, it's not the sort of enthusiast level game, but for what this is, I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, it's
like a family style game that introduces kids to, and adults, to better games than what we typically see in sort of the mainstream.
I mean, yeah, when we were kids, we never had these style games. Definitely not with this art and this style. Plus, it does retain all of the nuances that make Ryan Laukatt's games Ryan Laukatt. Like, you look at the art and you look at the design, and it feels like the same universe that we play in with the other games.
Yeah, it's been a while since I played Islebound, but the cards that you collect are very reminiscent of these buildings. I love these completely 90-degree face-front buildings that he does on these cards.
It also needs to be mentioned that the game trays that are being used, I can't stress this enough, for publishers that are trying to push this into a more mainstream audience. These game trays speak volumes to people that are looking at the product themselves, especially people that open this for the first time and they see the organization within the game. It instantly makes them want to play the game and maybe explore more games within the enthusiast hobby.
I mean, these are people who are used to playing games potentially like Monopoly or older games like that where you have all that money everywhere. There's a nice lid to this thing that goes in the box. You pull it out, set it on the table, it's good to go.
Congratulations to Mallory. First game in Target. I mean, that doesn't happen often.
No.
So if you guys are interested about Megaland, go check it out. If you guys have any questions about it, make them in the comments below. Subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, everything else that we do, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.